Jesus answered them, saying, "Who is my mother or my brothers?" And he looked around in a circle at those who sat about him and said, "Here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of God is my brother and my sister and mother." When I look around the room today, I see my family. Amen. Now, a special day today, it's Mother's Day. Mother's Day can be a really, really sweet and exciting day. It can also be a really, really hard day. However, today is hitting you. Know that our prayers are with you, and we appreciate our mothers a lot. Today will not be a traditional Mother's Day sermon, but it hits on a very important subject that is exemplified very well in mother-son or mother-daughter relationships. Here in Mark 3, where I just read from briefly, Jesus is explaining there are some relationships that transcend flesh and blood. He loved his mother a lot, but what he cares most about is people who do the will of God. That's my mother and my sister and my brothers. So today we're going to be talking about doing the will of God in a way that often gets ignored, I'm afraid, because of its complicated or confusing or maybe too extreme nature. So let me just say welcome, especially to our mothers. Welcome, especially to our visitors. Welcome. I see people visiting today. I see people visiting with their mothers specifically today. That's beautiful. That's awesome. Thank you for being with us today. We're going to go on a journey today as we look at a very important subject that gets ignored and is supposed to bring us closer to God. Just like we have relationships with our parents, that requires sacrifice. It requires giving something up. If you're here visiting your mom at church today, and you're not usually here, you're giving something up to be with her. That's good. If you don't have kids like I do, but you do have mom like I do, then give her a call today. That's important. It's going to require us to do something to seek a relationship with a parent. And I think the mother relationship exemplifies maybe some of the shortcomings we have in our seeking of a relationship with God. So let me ask you this question, and please answer it honestly. Ask yourself, what deters me most? What deters me most from having a dedicated prayer life? Prayer is really important. We consider what prayer is. It's really a good thing that God has given us. Yet, if you're like me, you don't have a dedicated prayer life like you should. What deters you from that? I read a book called Prayer and Fasting. And in this book, the author suggested the two main reasons we're not as dedicated to prayer as we should be: sin and busyness. We'll see how the sermon goes today. If it goes well, we'll do another sermon on busyness, because I think that distracts us from prayer a lot. If you are very busy and you have a completely full schedule, the thing that's going to go at the end of your day will be prayer. It's easy to cut. You go on with your job and your work and your food and everything else, but you cut out prayer. Busyness keeps us from having a dedicated prayer life. But also, sin. Sin keeps us from having a dedicated prayer life, and this one is so dangerous because it creates this self-defeating cycle. All the way back in the garden, man's response to sin is to hide. Like Adam, when we are sinning, when we are not desiring God like we should, it's a lot harder to go to him in prayer. So because of the sin that exists in our lives, when you're having a hard day, when you need God the most, we avoid prayer. And that self-defeating cycle of sin and avoidance from God creates a pattern that ruins lives. So today, let me present to you fasting as the antithesis to the sin cycle. I want to know just how much time to spend on this today. So please let me know. When I say the sin cycle, I am talking about seeing, desiring, and taking. And that pattern that we see in the Old Testament. Just, are you familiar with that pattern a little bit? Okay, kind of, not really. Great, then we're going to learn today. This will be awesome. Sin as the antithesis to the sin cycle is fasting. And there are lots of ways, I'm sure, to break the sin cycle. But after reading this book and after trying it out for myself, I found the danger of the sin cycle that we're about to define to be broken by the spiritual gift of fasting. The joy that it is to be able to seek God in this special way. So this will operate underneath a couple of things we need to be on the same page on. One is the definition of fasting. This seems pretty good to me. It comes from that book that I read. It's the voluntary denial of an otherwise normal function for the sake of intense spiritual activity. Dan recently covered how Jesus says, like, when you fast. We should all be on the same page that fasting should be something that we're doing. That's not what this sermon's going to cover. We're all on the same page. Fasting is something we should be doing. I want to present why it's going to help you. Jesus says, when you fast. In the class back here, we're talking about Mark 9:29 today. That has some debated nature to it. But in that, Jesus probably says that there is a special dedication to God that is seen by prayer and fasting. That's an assumption for the sermon, that fasting is something we should be doing. Here's why we should be doing it. Luca read it for us. It's Matthew 4, verses 1 through 4. And what Jesus says in that passage, or what the Bible says about Jesus in that passage, is that Jesus went out to be tempted by the devil. And he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And afterward, he was hungry. The tempter comes to him with a temptation. The first thing Jesus does is he responds with Scripture. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Right in the beginning of Jesus' ministry, Matthew 4, where Luca read for us, Jesus has been baptized, and now he goes out, he's about to start his ministry, but it starts with fasting and temptation, clearly showing us fasting, one of its many purposes, but maybe a main one, should be that we resist temptation. It's a major tool for us to be able to resist Satan's temptations. Those temptations can look in a number of ways. But what's a common pattern in the Old Testament is the sin cycle. A person sees, a person desires, a person takes. That's a little bit general, as you might consider the things that Satan is tempting you with right now, but you can understand how it works even for intangible things. But look at how this works in some of the major sins of the Old Testament. We'll start with Eve. Eve in Genesis 3, this is the beginning. When the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. The sin cycle, really the beginning of sin of the world, starts with what Eve saw. She saw, she desires, and she took. And then it spreads even more so as she takes and gives to her husband. It's a scary cycle because it starts with something quite simple. It starts with what she saw. And then she desires, and then she takes. Look at this one. We're going to fast forward in our Bibles to Joshua 7. In Joshua 7, this is the sin of Achan. And we're moving quickly, but here's the context. In Joshua 7, God tells the people, don't take anything. For the people you conquer, don't take anything. And then they think that all went well. They go on to their next battle, the battle of Ai, not artificial intelligence. It's just a place. When we were kids, we loved like steak sauce. My brother just learned about AI, and so he called it AI steak sauce. It's A1 steak sauce. And now I like to think about kids getting confused about artificial intelligence in the Bible instead of steak sauce. Anyway, steak sauce, artificial intelligence place should not have defeated Israel, and they do. And they say, what is going on? 36 men die. This is bad. They say, what is happening? We're supposed to win, not lose. And what happened was someone did what they weren't supposed to. And after a very long, lengthy process of figuring out who it was who disobeyed God, who took what he was not supposed to take from Jericho, Achan confesses. And he says, when I saw among the spoils a beautiful Babylonian garment, 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and took them. After his confession here, what happens to Achan, his sons, and everything he has is burned in the valley of Achor, or affliction. a lot of people suffered for the consequences of Achan, including Achan himself and the 36 men who were struck down in battle. And it all started with what Achan saw. You see the pattern. Garden to the Israelites, now one more famous sin to David. What happened to David in 2 Samuel 11, maybe the most well-known, from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to behold. So David sent and inquired about the woman. Then David sent messengers and took her. David's just a great example of what not to do here in this passage. He ends up doing a lot of really, really bad things that I talk about too much. But what you see here is bad enough. He saw something he shouldn't have been seeing, and that made him desire something he should not have been desiring. And then he took something that he definitely should not have been taking. The consequences of this sin followed David around for a very long time. But what we can learn from this is important in itself. What we look at matters. Understanding the pattern of the sin cycle to see, desire, and take is one that we should know, because it makes us really realize how important it is to be careful about what we see. It's a good lesson for another time. But the lesson here is, what if I can't control what I see? What if I see something I didn't want to? There's a big debate of what David was doing here. Probably he had bad intentions seeing what he saw, but maybe not. Maybe he just saw something he should not have. If we believe this sin cycle applies to us today, if you're thinking about your own life, it does. This definitely applies to us today. Now what am I going to do about it? Am I just a product of what I happen to see or happen to desire? Am I just doomed if I see the wrong thing? If you've struggled with the sin cycle in the past like I have, your past failures fuel your future failures. How you've dealt with this in the past and your tendency to see and desire and take things you shouldn't fuels where you are now. And if you're like me, you've probably felt helpless in that cycle before. You've probably felt like, this is bad news. I feel kind of helpless here. Whether it's addiction, relationships, or attitudes, the sin cycle is dangerous, and sometimes we can feel helpless in it. But what I present to you today is that fasting, we'll talk about non-food fasting at the end, but for the sermon, think about food fasting, just the simplest form of fasting, giving up of food. Now, I know it's Mother's Day, and everyone's going to go out and eat after this. Okay, so on your way out the door, when I shake your hand, you tell me how nice my new shoes are. Like, we're not going to make jokes about how we're all going out to eat after this. Okay, don't do it. Someone's going to do it. Because it's funny to think, oh, I'm going to go eat, like I'm doing exactly what the preacher said not to say. No, that's not it at all. Fasting is not meant to be like a one chance to get extra close to God, and if I'm eating, then I'm not close to God anymore. That's a misconception about fasting. What fasting is meant to do is to retrain and reshape our brain that has fallen victim to this cycle so many times, so that in those moments when we do spend special close time to God, it retrains and reshapes us even when we're not fasting. That's the goal today. Not for me to tell you about a special 12 hours I want you to have in your week this week, but how 12 hours in your week this week can shape the way you deal with sin and busyness and anything else that prevents you from being close to God. That's what we're talking about today. Fasting breaks the sin cycle at all three stages. We'll start with what we see. Too often, like Eve and Achan and David, we enjoy getting close to things that we should not be. We know we shouldn't desire them or take them, but we get close enough to see them. You think, why do we do that? Why would you allow yourself to do that? In my office, if you know my office, you know that I've got like a drawer right here. If you spend some time in that office, you know that that drawer doesn't work. Because of that, it opens up kind of at random times. And if you really know my office, you know that that drawer is full of discounted Easter candy right now. Because I like getting Easter candy after Anyway, so it's full of like caramel apple pops right now. And I was in the middle of like just a 12-hour fast, which into practical steps, a 7 to 7 fast will really change your week if you do that just once every now and then. It doesn't have to be huge. But I was in the middle of this 7 to 7 fast. And unprompted, my drawer full of goodies just opens up. Now, when it comes to other things that we should not be desiring, we like to get close. We like to kind of see. I'm like, oh, I didn't desire it, I just happened to see it. Oh, I didn't take it, I just kind of saw it. When you are fasting, and that drawer pops open, it's angering. You're not happy about it, saying, get behind me, caramel apple pops. You're saying, I don't want to see this right now. This is bad. I'm doing something. Stop. If you knew someone was fasting and they were just like staring into the alluring glow of the fridge, you'd say, what are you doing? You're fasting. He's like, well, I'm just looking. You say, don't look. That's stupid. Fasting teaches us the stupidity of even looking at something we should be staying away from. And stupid is a really good word. What I love about fasting, and food fasting specifically, is it takes us so back to who we are as humans. Humans need food. And when you're hungry, you want food. We're going to see that's okay, but for now, realize if you are choosing to abstain from this very central part of being alive for a little bit of time, even looking at something you should not be is just dumb. It's stupid. You learn that while you're fasting. But then when you are done fasting, you will learn something way better. You will learn how stupid it is to look at anything else that prevents you from being close to God. We're not just talking about those 12 hours now. Now we're talking about how fasting reshapes how we live. So now when I see something that I know there's going to be bad news in that fridge or bad news in that drawer, I'm going to stay even further away from it. That's what we want to be careful with, and that is what fasting can be such a good teacher of. Like Eve, Achan, and David, I like to get close to what can harm me. I know you do too. That's stupid. Yet we've all done it because it feels human. Sometimes it feels like there is nothing that we can do about this sin cycle, but there certainly is. If you are struggling with a sin, an attitude, a relationship, my encouragement to you this week, try fasting. Okay, what about what we desire? The goal is to stay away from things that we shouldn't be close to. That's good. Keep the drawer closed. But sometimes you're going to see something you're not supposed to. That doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't make you sinful. If there's something you saw that you weren't supposed to see. I promise this is real. I was tired of my drawer coming open, and I put Scotch tape there to try to keep it closed. It did not work. It did not work. So now I'm in the middle of my fast, and it opens up. Breaks the tape, and it opens there. And so now I have seen something. And guess what? I did desire it. I did desire it. And now I feel great. I tried to break the sin cycle, but I'm stuck in it. I've got this goal of 7 to 7, and now the allurement of the caramel apple pops are right there in front of me. What am I going to do about it? Well, this is what I learned in that very quick moment. My first thought was, I should take a snack break. It was like Providence, like snack time. But then I was reminded, by the very thing I'm avoiding, what I should be desiring. So my second thought was, I should take a prayer break. Like it's simple and kind of silly because we're talking about candy or food or whatever food it is that you like so much. This may not always be the case, but I promise you, as I was writing this sermon, this was exactly what happened to me. Desiring food is not a bad thing, but while you are fasting, you do not want to desire food. Fasting helps us learn how to retrain our desires to their appropriate context. Desiring food is good. If you have committed to a fast for 12 hours, then it's not good. Desiring sex is good, but not outside of its proper context. Don't make food bad or sex bad, but rather retrain your desires to know its proper context. Something simple as a 12-hour fast really helped me retrain my desires. So now, what we desire teaches us that, by fasting, teaches us that what we are avoiding can remind us of what we should be desiring. I see the food when I'm fasting. My first thought is, yay, food. My second thought is remember, no, bad. Go take a prayer break. Okay, that's how fasting looks, but it works in everyday life too. For me, the act of fasting really helped me get here. But even without the fasting, this principle applies. Now, instead of just food, it's social media. And when I go on social media and I see someone seeking lustful attention, instead of that making me desire that, the thing that I should be avoiding reminds me of the good thing. So now when I see inappropriate images on social media, I'm reminded of the covenant I have with my wife and how God wants the marriage bed to be undefiled in Hebrews 13:4. Now when I hear an impure word on Spotify or the radio, instead of seeking and desiring to partake in that further, I'm reminded of the pure milk of the Word and how much I need that. When I see an angry driver on the road, I'm not tempted to be angry like he is. Instead, I'm reminded of the peace that God offers me that surpasses all understanding. Fasting teaches us to be reminded by the things that we are avoiding to point us to the things that we should be desiring instead. Fasting should reshape what we want to see. That's number one. But number two is that fasting reshapes our desires, using the thing we're abstaining from as the very reminder of what we should be desiring. Those are the first two stages. Now we get to the third one, what we take or perhaps commit. We're going to see things that we shouldn't, and we're going to desire things that we shouldn't. When you're in the middle of a fast, your stomach will grumble. That is your body, like not you, that is your body saying, I'm desiring food. Okay, so if your stomach grumbles during a fast, you did not fail. You did not fail. You didn't say, oh great, like I'm desiring food now, I failed. No, the stomach grumbling is okay. Desiring something is okay. The third stage of that sin cycle is where it gets really important. What am I going to do with this desire? If we feel like we're just a product of the sin cycle so far, you say, I saw it, so I'm going to desire and take it now. It's inevitable. Or my stomach grumbled, it's inevitable. I'm going to take it and I'm going to eat it. Instead, what we can do is we can stop the sin cycle right in its past, right in its path. And fasting helps us do that. And I want to emphasize fasting here, because the other way this works is by dabbling in sin. Because if you're trying to learn how to say no to things you desire for the very first time, when that tempting thing is in your path, when that lustful image is right on your screen, and this is your first time trying to say no to something, it's not going to go well. It's not going to go well. But if we try it with fasting, something that is as simple as food, we get a chance to learn in an isolated environment. We learn about what it feels like to desire something, and then to tell yourself, no. Our culture teaches us that if I want it, I take it. That's pretty American right now. If I want it, I'm going to take it. If I can't take it, I will. It'd be stupid not to. But fasting teaches that even if I want it, I can refuse it. That's really hard. The isolated environment of fasting helps us do that. Sin teaches us, I must have it. Eve, Achan, David, they were like, I must have it. That is the lie that Satan is telling us. He told it to Jesus. You must have it. And a lot of times I say, great point, and I take. But fasting teaches us, I can let it go. Even if I want it, even if I could have it, I can let it go. Fasting frequently will help us learn how to retrain our desires by dealing with food instead of sin. It's okay when your stomach grumbles. That grumble is going to remind us what we have committed ourselves to. The desire is okay. What matters is if we are going to take or not. Fasting teaches us that we can let go of what we have seen and desired. If you're like me, that's really hard. That's really hard. If it's an addiction, a sin, a relationship, an attitude, we get into these cycles that feel unbreakable. Fasting teaches us it is very breakable. Don't make the mistake that I did, because I made a big mistake when it comes to fasting, and that is that I always viewed fasting as the pinnacle of a great prayer life. Have you felt like that before? It's prayer and fasting. If you're really good at prayer, then you can go to the next level of fasting, which again is self-defeating, because you're probably never going to get a great prayer life if you don't learn these breaks to the cycle, if you don't learn how to desire God through fasting. So then you never get there, and you probably end up suffering in your prayer life as well. What I learned through prayer and fasting is that fasting is often our first step. For the many reasons there are to fast, This one is something we should go to first. It's not a level that we get to achieve when we're really good at being a Christian. Rather, it is something that is for us to desire God and get closer to him. Don't think of it as a pinnacle. Think of it as your first step. That's the sin cycle and what it is broken by. It's broken by fasting. It teaches us. Fasting is meant to teach us. It teaches us to be careful about what we look at. It teaches us to deal with what we desire and to be reminded of the good instead of the bad. It teaches us that we can say no. I want to close with just a couple of practical, what this teaches us and what it looks like. So when you think about fasting, think of it as a teacher. It is meant to teach us in a really controlled environment. Mothers know all about that. You want to teach your kids when it's controlled. We want to teach our kids before it gets really, really bad. When you see like a little kid, like, I'm not going to name names, but when you see like a little baby push over a little baby, it's kind of funny. You're like, don't do that, but it's like kind of funny to see it. We say, no, we've got to stop it in its tracks. We got to stop this while it's controlled, while it's small, to teach these kids not to desire to do that. We want to use these opportunities as mothers, as parents, to teach ourselves to desire good things. Last night I was having dinner with my friend Layla, and Layla loves Chick-fil-A mac and cheese, right? And Michaela had like mac and cheese, and it was like super hot. But Layla loves it. So she was just like staring at it, just like trying to get the mac and cheese for herself. She was not getting the mac and cheese because Michaela's a good mom, right? And she says, no, this is going to hurt you. If I were to give you what you're looking for right now, this desire is not good. Parents want to teach us these lessons in controlled environments. If you wait until the kid's 18 years old, it's not a controlled environment anymore. The pushing is not funny. The desiring of harmful things is not funny anymore. For Christians in our walk with God, some of us have not learned the lesson that fasting can teach us. The idea in Scripture is that this is a time to come closer to God. This is a time to draw closer to him, and we can miss it if we haven't done it before. So think about food fasting, and think about this. To live a life. Fasting is meant to teach us to live a life that is close to God all the time. Because of that, try starting small. I've been talking about a 12-hour fast. Try a 1-meal fast. Maybe some of you are unintentionally doing that right now. Maybe you skipped breakfast this morning. But sometime this week, try skipping a meal, 1 meal. For me, I always thought of fasting as this like pinnacle and a time to be close to God. And I say, okay, I'm going to try like a super long fast because I'm good. I want to be close to God. Don't think of it that way, because you will fail and it will come back to get you. It's not going to feel good. You're going to mess up. And then when the fast is over, you'll go right back to where you were before. Fasting is not a one-time ticket to being close to God. Instead, it is meant to teach us a life that is close to God. So try skipping 1 meal and write down what you learn. Hopefully you learn similar things that I did. But it's not just a one-time thing. It's a life that's lived close to God. Fasting is meant to teach us the danger of what we have normalized. In this country, we've normalized a lot of dangerous things. Because of that, I will encourage you, additionally, to try non-food fasting. There are a lot of health concerns and health reasons for why fasting from food specifically might not be very good for you. We're not talking about those situations. If that's your case, like, don't hurt yourself. But find something that you can voluntarily abstain from. One of these that I abstained from was reels. Like, scrolling reels on social media is dangerous. And if you look around everywhere, stoplights and grocery stores, people are scrolling all the time. So much so we've normalized it. If you take a break from social media, if you get off of whatever that thing is you might be kind of safely addicted to, when you come back to it, like I did, it was like 2 weeks, I think. Like, I'm not doing that. When I came back to it, it was plenty alluring, but I realized, whoa, this is dangerous. This is really dangerous. But if we're used to doing something that is a little bit harmful all the time, we won't think about it. We're like, oh, this is okay. Like, everyone does it. But try non-food fasting, whether that's secular music or social media, whatever else other thing that might be, try it. And you'll realize the danger of what you normalized before. A lot of dangerous things out there that are seen as good, but they're not. Try non-food fasting for a little bit of time. And then, most of all, fasting is meant to teach us about our dependence on God. Do not fast for like health reasons or financial reasons. That's not what we're talking about here. But like if you did fast once a week, it would probably add up in some other good places. But fasting is meant to teach us not about finances or health. It's meant to teach us about dependence on God. Try praying as much as possible when you are fasting, whether it's non-food or food. Connect with God. Use that as an opportunity to abstain from a meal, and the time that you would use to cook, clean, and eat, that's a lot of time to be spending with God. If you abstain from one dinner this week, you will get an extra, well, depending on how you make dinner, you'll get an extra probably hour and a half of time with God. However that looks for you, whether it's just meditating, reading, praying, abstaining from one meal is going to help you spend a lot more time with God. I want to present to you one more scripture. And I think it encapsulates what we're getting at really well here. It's James 4, 7 through 10. Submit to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned into mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. Use your fast to draw closer to God. This is not for asceticism or for punishment. This is not just to deprive yourself. This is to reshape what your brain is seeing, desiring, and taking. Resisting the devil is hard. There are certain things we have to do to resist the devil, to make him flee from us. Learn that you're not just a product of what you happen to have seen. Realize that you can reshape your desires and reshape what your brain wants to take. And I promise you, it will make you closer to God. I want to make sure no one is confused at the end here about what our purposes are of fasting. Fasting is not to make us feel like we are earning our salvation. I've felt that way before. I've heard about kids who are like, oh, I'm going to fast because like I feel bad about what I did, so I have to like earn it back. And they go on like this really dangerous long fast. We are not talking about earning our salvation here. We're not talking about extra points in heaven here. We're talking about people who have been given the free gift of God, and that is to know him and to desire him. We're talking about how we can do that closer, how we can do that better, how we can spend our time, not just as a product of the social media on our phones, or the food on our plates, or the music in our ears. Give yourself time to be close to God. Make no mistake, I'm not saying we can earn our salvation in any way. I'm encouraging you to know God. If you do not know God, if you have not seen him or met him before, or maybe you've fallen away from him, there's a great path ahead of you. One that breaks the sin cycle. Sin is nasty and ugly, and it draws us away from God. The appeal and the invitation right now is that you'd be drawn closer to God. If you have not known God, we want to help you know him. We want to study the Bible with you. Make your needs known. Come talk to me, talk to Dan. Let somebody know what you want, what you can do about knowing God. For the rest of us, don't let the invitation pass you by. Do something this week. I would encourage you. Fast. Skip a meal this week. Do something to draw closer to God and to desire him. Break the sin cycle. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you, and God will exalt you. Let's stand and sing our invitation song.
Lions call, sing